I never thought I'd be taken by surprise in my own home, especially not by my 62-year-old stepmother, Karen. I mean, I knew moving back in with my dad and his new wife was going to be a bit of an adjustment, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened that morning. It all started on a quiet Tuesday. I'd just moved back to town after finishing college, trying to save some money before finding a place of my own. My dad, Mike, had remarried while I was away at school. Karen was a kind, vibrant woman who could light up a room with her laughter. She was nothing like I imagined a stepmom would be. We got along great, maybe even better than I got along with my dad sometimes. That morning, I was in the bathroom, getting ready for a job interview. The shower was running, steam fogging up the mirror, and I was trying to calm my nerves. It's not every day you have an interview for your dream job, you know? As I was rehearsing my answers, I heard a soft knock on the bathroom door. "Hey, Jake," Karen's voice came through the door, soft but clear. "Are you in there?" "Yeah, Karen, just getting ready for my interview," I called back, trying to sound casual. There was a pause, and then she said, "I'm really sorry to bother you, but I need to grab something from the bathroom. Do you mind?" I didn't think much of it. "No problem, come on in," I said, wiping the steam from the mirror. The door opened slightly, and Karen slipped in. She was wearing a light blue robe, her silver hair tied up in a neat bun. I figured she'd just grab whatever she needed and leave. But as she reached into the cabinet, I noticed her robe wasn't tied as tightly as it should be. It fell open just a bit, enough to give me a glimpse of her bare shoulder and collarbone. I quickly looked away, feeling my face heat up. Everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Karen turned to me, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "Oh, I'm fine. Just needed some aspirin," she said, holding up the bottle. "You nervous about your interview?" "A little," I admitted, trying to focus on anything but the way her robe was slipping. She gave me a warm smile. "You'll do great. Just be yourself, Jake. They'll see how wonderful you are." I nodded, grateful for the pep talk. Karen had a way of making you feel like you could take on the world. As she turned to leave, the belt of her robe came loose, and the robe fell open completely. For a moment, time seemed to stop. I couldn't look away, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Karen, my stepmom, was standing in front of me, completely exposed. She gasped, quickly pulling her robe closed, her face turning bright red. "Oh my God, Jake, I'm so sorry," she stammered, fumbling with the belt. I didn't realize." I was just as flustered, my mind racing. It's okay," I said, turning away to give her some privacy. "It was an accident, right?" "Right," she said, still sounding mortified. "Just an accident. Please don't tell your dad, okay? He'd be so upset." I nodded, still trying to process what had just happened. "Of course, it's our secret." She left the bathroom quickly, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I leaned against the sink, trying to calm my racing heart. I couldn't believe what had just happened. My 62-year-old stepmom had just walked in on me and, well, she hadn't exactly left much to the imagination. For the rest of the day, I couldn't focus on anything else. Not my interview, not my plans for the future, nothing. All I could think about was Karen, and the way her robe had slipped, and the look on her face when she realized what had happened. It wasn't just shock or embarrassment. There was something else, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. Later that evening, I avoided Karen as much as I could. I didn't want to make things awkward, but every time I saw her, I felt my cheeks heat up. She acted like nothing had happened, but there was a tension in the air that hadn't been there before. I went to bed early, hoping a good night's sleep would clear my head. But as I lay there, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't stop replaying that moment over and over in my mind. I knew I shouldn't think about it. She was my stepmom, for crying out loud, but I couldn't help it. There was something about Karen, something that drew me to her in a way I couldn't explain. The next morning, I found a note on the kitchen table from Karen. It simply said, "Jake, we need to talk." My heart pounded as I read those words. What did she want to talk about? Had she told my dad? Did she want to clear the air, or was there something more? I took a deep breath, crumpling the note in my hand. Whatever was going on, I knew one thing for sure. My life was about to get a whole lot more complicated. I stood in the kitchen, staring at Karen's note, my mind racing. What did she want to talk about? My thoughts bounced between different possibilities. Did she want to clear the air about what happened in the bathroom? Or was there something more to this? I couldn't wait to find out. My dad was away on a business trip, so it was just Karen and me in the house. I had the whole day to prepare myself for whatever she was going to say. I decided to get out of the house for a while, hoping some fresh air would help me think. As I walked through the park nearby, I replayed the events of the previous morning in my mind. I couldn't help but remember how Karen had looked, the surprise and embarrassment on her face, and the way she'd rushed out of the bathroom. By the time I got back to the house, the sun was setting. I could see Karen through the kitchen window, preparing dinner. I took a deep breath and walked inside. The smell of roasted chicken filled the air, and the table was set for two. "Hey, Jake," Karen said, turning to smile at me. She looked as calm and composed as ever, but I could see a hint of nervousness in her eyes. "I made your favorite. I hope you're hungry." "Thanks, Karen," I said, sitting down at the table. I could feel the tension in the room, the unspoken words hanging between us. As we ate, we made small talk, avoiding the topic that was clearly on both our minds. Finally, when the plates were empty, Karen set down her fork and looked at me. "Jake, about what happened yesterday," she began, her voice soft. I looked up, meeting her gaze. "Yeah, I've been thinking about it too," I admitted. She sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I don't know how to say this, but I think we need to be honest with each other. What happened in the bathroom, it wasn't just an accident. I mean, it was an accident, but..." She trailed off, searching for the right words. It brought up feelings I didn't expect, feelings I thought I was too old to have. I was stunned. I had expected her to say she was embarrassed, that she wanted to forget about it and move on. But this? I hadn't seen this coming. "Karen, what are you saying?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She took a deep breath, her eyes locking onto mine. "I'm saying that I've felt something between us for a while now. I know it's wrong, and I never meant for anything to happen. But yesterday, it made me realize that maybe you feel it too." I didn't know what to say. My mind was a jumble of emotions, confusion, excitement, guilt. I couldn't deny that I felt something. Karen was beautiful, smart, and kind. There had always been a connection between us, a chemistry that I couldn't ignore, but she was my stepmom, my dad's wife. This was wrong, wasn't it? "I don't know what to say," I finally managed. "I mean, you're my stepmom, and Dad..." "I know, Jake," she said quickly, reaching out to touch my hand. "I love your father. But what I feel for you, it's different. It's like we understand each other in a way no one else does." Her touch sent a jolt through me. I knew I should pull away, tell her this was crazy, that it could never work. But I couldn't. Instead, I found myself leaning closer, my heart racing. "Karen, I started, but before I could finish, she leaned in and kissed me. It was soft at first, tentative, as if testing the waters. But then, as if a dam had burst, all the tension and desire that had been building between us came rushing out. I kissed her back, my hands sliding up her arms, pulling her closer. For a moment, it felt like nothing else mattered. Not my dad, not the consequences, nothing. It was just Karen and me, caught up in something we couldn't control. But then, reality hit. I pulled away, breathing hard, my mind spinning. "Karen, we can't do this," I said, my voice shaking. "What about Dad? What about us?" Karen looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of desire and regret. I don't know, Jake. I just know that I can't pretend I don't feel this way. But you're right. We need to think about what this means, what we're going to do. I nodded, my heart heavy. I didn't have any answers. All I knew was that things were never going to be the same. We had crossed a line, and there was no going back. As we sat there in silence, the reality of our situation settled over us like a heavy blanket. The days that followed were a blur. Karen and I tried to act normal around each other, but the tension was always there, just beneath the surface. My dad came back from his trip, oblivious to the turmoil in our home. I tried to focus on finding a job, but my mind was constantly on Karen, on that kiss, on the way her eyes had looked into mine. One evening, about a week after the kiss, I found Karen sitting on the porch, staring out at the sunset. I sat down beside her, and we sat in silence for a while, watching the sky turn shades of pink and orange. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," Karen finally said, breaking the silence. "About us. About what happened." "Me too," I admitted. "I can't stop thinking about it." She turned to look at me, her eyes serious. "I think we need to make a decision, Jake. Either we end this now before it goes any further, or we figure out what this is and what we want." I swallowed, my mind racing. I knew she was right. We couldn't keep going like this, pretending everything was normal when it was anything but. "What do you want, Karen?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and longing. "I don't know, Jake. I want you, but I don't want to hurt your dad. I don't want to ruin everything." "I don't want to hurt him either," I said, my heart aching. "But I can't ignore how I feel about you." She reached out, taking my hand in hers. "Maybe we should take some time to figure things out. See how we really feel, without the pressure, without the guilt." I nodded, squeezing her hand. "Yeah, maybe that's a good idea." As the sun dipped below the horizon, we sat there, holding hands, knowing that whatever happened, our lives were changed forever. We didn't have all the answers, but we had each other, and for now, that was enough.